Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the SpeakUpSis Magazine Author Showcase, a space where stories shine and storytellers are celebrated. I'm your host, Angel Charmaine, and I'm so excited to have you join us tonight. Now, if you've been following Speak Up Sis magazine, you already know we are passionate about elevating real voices from everyday people with extraordinary stories. And tonight's featured author is no exception. Please help me welcome Deborah Jefferson, author of the captivating book, A Rose Wrapped in Thorns. Hello, Deborah. How are you doing? And welcome to the Speak Up Sis Magazine Author Showcase. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
I am doing so good. I am just really happy to have you in this space with us. You have been connected to the Speak Up Sis platform for so very long.
Yes, forever.
Yes, so I'm really happy to have you to be our first featured in the magazine
Yeah.
author. And I'm so excited. We had Rachel Branch on last week, and she was our first to be in this interview space. And so now we get to have you here, the first to take advantage of our brand spanking new author showcase in the print, digital, and this interview space. So I really appreciate you, and I thank you
No,
so much for joining us tonight. All right.
you're welcome.
So, before we dive into your story, because it is a story, can
Yes.
you share with our audience who you are and what inspired you to start writing in the first place?
Okay, yes. Well, my name is Deborah Jefferson. I am an author and I've published three books actually, self-published three books. And how I began writing, I initially started writing poetry. That's my first love because I can write my feelings out and and I decided to collect them and put them in a book. And then I moved on to my second collection of poetry and then into a, a rose wrapped in thorns, which I say not poetry. That's how I started off because God said it wasn't going to do it justice for poetry. I had to write it out for what it was. And that's how I came on with that. I just went through an experience and I wrote it out. And that's how I became, well, I guess this is in a sense how I became a writer. I started with poetry, like I said, and then moved on into writing a memoir. And I'm going to continue with those stories.
All right. So I love that you are also a poet. That's how I was first introduced to your work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? Emotion, burst of emotion.
Well, the first one is actually Whirlwind of Emotions. That's
Okay,
the first one. It was a real short one because I was like just
okay.
getting it
So you
out
had a
there.
whirlwind of emotions, and then a burst of emotion,
Yes, that's correct.
and now you're writing about a whirlwind
Yes, yes.
experience, and we're gonna get on into that. We're just gonna jump right on in.
Mhm.
So, can you take us back to the moment you realized you had a story that was worth sharing, and not just privately, but publicly and in book form?
I came to that conclusion while I was still in the midst of that storm. While the thorns were still poking me, that's when I came to the realization that this feels like a movie that I'm in. This can't be real life. I had some confidants that I spoke with, during that time that helped me through. And it just everything that I was going through was just so bizarre. It was literally like I was watching someone else go through it. And it was like, this can't be real. This gotta be sounds like a movie. You need to write a book. And I thought about it and I was like, I didn't want to put everything out there, as I normally write the poetry, right? And you can hide behind that. But no, Lord said, no, you got to write this one out for what it is. And I started writing in the midst of it. in the midst of it.
So, okay, I get a little tongue tied with you with this book because you already know.
Yes, I know.
I reached out to you when I first got the book, and just let me say, for the viewing audience, this is the book. It is a beautiful cover, and we're going to talk about this cover in just a moment. But before we move into that, I've got to ask you, did you think about what people would say prior to writing this? Because you really do share
Mhm.
some very vulnerable moments in this
Yeah.
book. And that's what kind of stopped me, because I found myself going, what in the world? What we do?
I know she was like, now, Deborah. Now I can just hear you calling my name, Deborah. Now, girl. But yes, and when I wrote it, because at first, like I said, I normally write my poetry because I can hide behind it, But I had to listen, and the Lord told me no. He said, no, don't write this one in poetry. You got to really, as people say, put your business out there. But I had to put it out there the way that he wanted me to do it, to show that you can find yourself in a situation that you've never been in, and that you can, and you have to trust the Lord to help you get through it. And so I listened and I wrote it, and I put it all out there. And yes, I had to worry about, my mom knowing certain things, or my adult children finding certain things out. I had to worry about all of that stuff, but I listened to my father, and he said, write it. And I went from there and just trusted.
And there are women, and I'm sure some men, who are being positively impacted and encouraged to share their own stories because of it. So let's jump right into the cover, because we have to. And not just the cover, but the title of this book, A Rose Wrapped in Thorns, is so rich with imagery. What made you choose that name, and how does it reflect the journey that you're taking the readers on in this book?
Yes, for me, the name first, A Rose Wrapped in Thorns, is from, how rose is all pretty and beautiful, right? But then it also has those thorns kind of intertwined or wrapped around it. And before I wrote the book, the poem that's in the front of it, I wrote that first. And it just like it all fell together because I wrote that before the book. So after, I was like, okay, what am I going to call it? Because I was going to call it something about in the fire or something like, or been through the fire or something. But then it just all fell together. And the thorns, like I said, in the story, there was a beautiful rose without saying so much. There was a beautiful rose, but that rose had thorns. If you want to be literal, that rose had thorns, and those thorns were very piercing. And that's how the cover, and it just all fell together, just like that, perfectly.
Listen, I felt trapped in some thorns reading this particular book. And I don't think that people will fully understand what I'm saying unless they actually read this book. But without giving too much away, your book really does center around this pivotal moment when you met someone and then you took a leap.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you took a leap, and then things just changed, right?
Right.
Why was it so important for you to write about that specific chapter of your life? Because the entire book is about this particular chapter, or this particular space and time in your life. Why this particular space versus including other parts of your life in this book?
Well, part of it was me healing, just like with journaling, and you write your story out, and it's a whole process, a therapeutic process. So for me, it was healing, just being able to write down everything, to recall everything. And I knew I needed to share it. And so I just wrote it down, and I kept writing. And each moment, like, there were some things, thank you, Sharice, there were some things that, were not meant for the book, and there were some things that were. But I just continued to listen and yield to the Lord and just, okay, hey, I'm gonna write this, I'm gonna put it out. And each time I wrote about it, I it was like a part of me it was like a release. It was a big release.
So I hear you saying that it was a release.
Mm-hmm.
Here again, I have to say that
Mm-hmm.
I read a good chunk of the book. And just FYI, for those of
Mm-hmm.
you who don't know, we also have a book club. It's called Chit Chatting Books Book
Mm-hmm.
Club. And next month's reading, our May reading, is going to be A Rose Wrapped in Thorns. So
Mm-hmm.
I really don't want to do a whole lot of spoilers tonight, but I have to ask, because you're saying that it was about release and healing. But what was the hardest part of writing this book? If you got a release and you felt it was
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic, those are all good things, right? Those are all
Right.
good things. So, what was the hardest part about writing this particular book?
The hardest part was putting my business out there. Actually sharing my story. Like I said, I had to share the bad as well as the good. And I'm a very private person, reserved. I don't tell everybody everything. I don't share everything. Well, the old me didn't typically share everything. I kept things hidden, but I couldn't keep that hidden. So that was very hard because people are going to actually read it, which they are. And it's what I thought at the time. People are going to actually read it. Some people are going to judge me, for things in the book. I thought about all of that when I was writing it, but I just kept praying, and the Lord kept telling me to just continue to write it. But that was my release, basically, or my moment of just I had to get it out, regardless of what it was. I had to just get it out.
Was there any particular chapter that was a little bit more, I won't say difficult? Was there a chapter that
Mm-hmm.
gave you cause to pause just a little bit? Maybe the memory, led
Um,
you to a place where you were like, okay, I just need to stop and put this down. I'll come back to it. Is there any specific part or chapter or
uh,
memory even?
right. There was a portion in the hotel. I just say that in the hotel in the beginning of the book. That was a moment that I had never gone through, and I will say, I don't want to say it gave me PTSD, but in a sense it did. It was an experience that I went through, and that sticks with me because right after that incident, I had a job interview, a phone job interview, and they asked me had I ever gone through a traumatic experience, because I think it was a job for like a crisis line, and they asked me had I gone through anything, and I couldn't lie. I had to be honest, and they didn't feel, and I agreed that I wasn't it wasn't the right time for me to take that kind of job because I had just gone through a crisis of my own in the beginning of that story. So that was a pivotal moment for me in the book, even just writing it, because I had to write that incident down in there, and I can still see it now as I'm talking about it.
I can't even imagine taking a job to help people in crisis,
Mm-hmm.
to help people to get through some things while you are actually going through it. Yet I can say that maybe you probably would have been one of the best people to do it.
I agree. I agree, but they didn't feel that way.
Right.
They lost out.
Got you. I
Mm-hmm.
totally understand. Was there
Mm-hmm.
anything, or did anything kind of surprise you about yourself as you went back through those memories? Maybe a strength that you forgot you had, or maybe there's a lesson that you didn't realize you learned until you started writing.
Definitely, I learned to pay attention to things and people, to their mannerisms, and to just listen. Just don't jump first. Don't
Mhm.
jump first. That's a big thing. Don't jump first.
Yeah.
Take your time. Yeah.
Did you realize that you were stronger than you thought you were maybe before this incident? Did you uh,
Definitely.
were you thinking, oh,
Yeah.
oh goodness?
A rose wrapped in thorns definitely showed me who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely showed me that, Deborah, yeah, you can get through this. You made it. You didn't lose all your hair. Your hair didn't fall out. You didn't, turn to other devices or whatever. That you are stronger than you thought you were. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know until you go through a thing.
And you sure don't.
Right.
You sure don't. You don't realize
Mhm.
what you can do, what you can't do, you don't really understand long suffering.
Right. Right. And there was some
You have
long
to
suffering
suffer
in
for a
that
while.
story.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Another thing that I noticed about the book as I was reading it is that there's this universal theme, if you will, within the story of risk and even
Mhm.
hope, and
Mhm.
even discovering, right, who we are when life throws curveballs. What do
Right.
you hope readers walk away with after reading A Rose Wrapped in Thorns?
I hope that my readers walk away with the fact that with God on their side, that they can get through anything. Just hold on to the hem of his garment. As they say in the Bible, just hold on to that little piece of faith, and God will carry you through the situation. It might not feel like it at the time when you're going through it, but just don't lose your faith. And there were many times when I wanted to lose, where I was losing my faith, but I just kept holding on to a little bit, a little piece, and God kept me through. So whatever you're going through, whatever situation you find yourself in, just don't lose hope. Just don't lose hope.
And it's important to say that in the time that we're living in, it just seems like there's one negative thing after another,
Mm-hmm.
one pitfall after another. Every time you turn on the television or the news, there's something else going on. Relationships are as rocky as I've ever seen them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we have younger people, the millennials and the generation Z and A, Alpha, whatever, and they just feel like we Gen Xers were just the worst. We just traumatized. But I feel like I'm being traumatized by the stuff that's going on in the world right now, and the
Mm-hmm.
relationships, the all of the fighting and all of the abuse and all the things
Right.
that are taking
Mm-hmm.
place and all the unaliving that is happening.
Exactly.
Right. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like goodness. And so as I read your story, I just was like, I bless the Lord, like that I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually able to talk to her beyond these things, and that someone isn't writing this book about you
Right. I'm
to
thankful.
share your own story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So your children,
Mm-hmm.
did you have adult daughters, and you've got an older teen son, but I
Yeah.
want to ask about your daughters because they are adults.
Right.
Read your book?
No, they have not read mom's book. Not to
Really?
my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. They may have and just not said anything. But to
Is
my knowledge,
that right?
that is right. That is right.
Okay, so why is that? Is it because they didn't want to read it, or you don't want them to read it? Why have they not read the book?
In the beginning, when I wrote the book, I didn't. Well, I can say we were kind of estranged, if I'll be transparent. My
Okay.
my daughters and myself, we were estranged for a minute, if you want to say it that way. But so when I came back home from the situation, which actually they weren't living here either then, but when I came back home to the situation, so we were all kind of like just getting back into talking and communing with one another, and they know about the relationship and everything. And one of my daughters, we actually talked about it a little bit, but as far as them actually reading the book, no, they haven't. And they may not be able to read it right now. So I don't push it on them, if you will.
I understand. And just let me say, for those of you who are just tuning in, for those of you who are trying to figure out what is going on,
Mm-hmm.
this is the Speak Up Sis Magazine Author Showcase. and I am talking with my guest, author Deborah Jefferson. She is the amazing author of A Rose Wrapped in Thorns. And I want to say that this book, it isn't just a story, it's her journey. It's a piece of
Mhm.
her journey. And Deborah is graciously sharing that journey with not only us, but the world, anyone who
Mhm.
picks up the book. Again, I have my copy. And just let me say, I purchased my copy. You know, a lot of times people who own media and things of that nature, we get lots of things at no
Mhm.
cost, and people will send you stuff and, oh, can I send you this or that? But I want you all to know that here at Speak Up Sis Magazine, the owner and editor-in-chief of the magazine, I absolutely put my money
Yes, you did.
where my mouth is, and I really do
Mhm.
read the books that we
Mhm.
share in the space. So I don't want to give up too much of this book, because each page you're turning, just like, is this going to get better? And I'm really happy
Right.
it does, because I'm sitting here
Mhm.
talking to you, right?
Right.
Really happy that it does, right?
Mhm.
So Deborah's voice, your voice, it doesn't just stop at the pages of your book, right?
Right.
I am thrilled to also be able to say and to announce to you all that you're going to be able to see Deborah and read more about Deborah in our upcoming spring edition of Speak Up Sis Magazine, which officially releases this coming Saturday. So you all need to make sure that you are back here in the building for the virtual release of our digital version of Speak Up Sis Magazine, because Deborah
Mhm.
will be featured in print. Tell me, how does that feel to be in print for your work? Because Deborah has also been one of our regular columnists for
Mhm.
2024, but you're going to be in the spotlight for your book. Tell us how it feels when you open up Speak Up Sis Magazine, you see your words, you see your name.
Mhm.
Tell me how that feels.
It feels amazing. From the first column that I wrote, the first article that I wrote for my column, I was like, oh my God, I'm in a magazine. Even from before I became a columnist, when I was submitting, poems, I was like, I'm actually in a magazine, a real live bona fide magazine. And it feels amazing. And to know that I'm actually going to be in there in a spotlight, a special spot now too. It feels amazing. Like I'm on cloud nine. Like really, literally, I'm on cloud nine. Like I'm actually in a magazine.
I would have never thought when we met almost 7 years ago that we would be
Mhm.
in this place, sharing space, connecting in this way. But I'm so glad that we are. I am so glad that we are. Before we kind of begin to wrap, I would like for you to let the people know where they can find your work.
All right. Well, of course, you can find A Rose Wrapped in Thorns on the Speak Up Sis bookshelf. As well, if you want Kindle, you can go to Amazon and get it there as well. Um, this book is all over, and of course on my website as well, www.hairbedthoughts.com, and you can find all of my books there as well. And you can get an autographed copy there. But feel free to get your copy off of Speak Up Sis bookshelf. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you, once you read it, that you really get the gist of the story and what it really stands for and what it means.
Perfect. Please make sure that you all follow Deborah Jefferson on her IG page.
Mhm.
And look at there. Hold on a
I
second.
was about to send you a little message.
Listen, and I worked really hard. I worked really hard.
The
I did.
computer was a little fast for you.
Yes.
One more, one more, the T.
follow Deborah Jefferson at Harold Beds Thoughts on IG. And you can also follow Deborah on FB at Harold Beds Thoughts. Okay.
Yes.
And you can connect with her. Like she said, this book is also on Speak Up Sis Bookshelf, and you can go to Speak Up Sis Bookshelf at speakupsis.com/bookshelf, and that will allow you to find her book and get directly to her. Okay. So we're not wrapping just yet. We almost there. We're almost there. We are almost there, y'all. I want to say to everyone who is tuning in, I want you to make sure that you join us. Ouch. Make sure you join us on Saturday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the virtual cover reveal and digital magazine release party. Is going to be a celebration of stories, strength, and sisterhood that you don't want to miss. And not just sisterhood, because we've got a treat.
Oh,
This edition, we've got a man too.
okay.
Yes, so I'm really, really excited about this particular edition. It's the first of its kind for Speak Up Sis Magazine. I'm not going to give you any spoilers.
No, not one.
So you all just have to join us right back here. If you are listening on our Speak Up Sis podcast on Spotify or wherever it is that you're listening, please make sure that you connect with Speak Up Sis Magazine. We are Speak Up Sis Magazine on all of our social platforms. Speak Up Sis, SIS Magazine. Also, make sure that you are subbed to our YT channel. All you have to do is type in Speak Up Sis. You're going to find us right there. Before we wrap tonight, though, I want to talk a little bit about growth. Is that all right with you?
That's quite all right.
All right, that's what's up. So since publishing A Rose Wrapped in Thorns, what's changed for you? Or has anything changed?
A lot has changed for me since writing Rose Wrapped in Thorns. I've become more bold, more confident with actually sharing my story, because a meek person cannot share this type of story. It takes someone with courage and confidence and belief in themselves. I can truly say that I believe in myself more now, and I'm stronger now that I've gone through this experience and writing this book and putting it out there for everybody to see. I've truly grown in many areas of just, womanhood, of just being a human being on this earth, and the experiences that I've seen. I've grown a lot in those areas. And even with being an author and a writer, the more you write, the better you get. The more you publish, the better you get. So I'm growing and continuing to grow on this journey, and to, strive to help others with my work.
That I was going to ask if you had some growth in your writing ability as well as your ability to tell stories, because again, you started out as a poet. Do you believe that your next piece of work, you will have learned some things in this book that you're going to use to write an even more robust and even fuller book the next time?
Yes, I will say, because I have been learning more about writing dialogue, and so I know I need to work on some of those areas, and share my story, because I still write about real life. So, but there still needs to be dialogue in that, just to make the story flow, so to speak. So I know those are certain areas that I may need to work on a little bit, but I am determined to do that and continue on my writing journey.
I like that you just wrote the book. There are so many people out here who want to write. They feel like they're being led to write. They feel like there's a book in me, but they're afraid that I don't know how to do it. I'm not sure if I'm smart enough or if I'm skilled enough. If someone out there is watching us right now and they're sitting on that story. They're sitting on a story and they're afraid to share it. What would you say to that person?
Just start writing. Just write it word for word, sentence by sentence, page by page, and just continue writing. Don't stop until you finish writing your story. Because someone else out there needs to read your story for their growth. So write your story.
You know what I say? Do it
Mm-hmm.
afraid until you can do it
Do
brave.
it brave. Yes.
That is what I always say. Before we get out of here tonight, I would like to take just a few moments to recognize those who may have joined us in the chat. I want to say, Sharice Johnson Moore, thank you so much for coming
Mm-hmm.
into the space and listening. I hope you heard something that is going to be helpful to you or that blessed you tonight. She
Mm-hmm.
says that she loves your book, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Sharice.
Peggy T says, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you for tuning in. Those of you who are watching on our YouTube page, we thank you, thank you, thank you. Rainique Publishing, hello. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We pray that you have heard something tonight that is going to help you to just do the thing, just write the story, because it's going to help heal,
Yes.
right? And you're going
Mm-hmm.
to grow and you're going to be so much stronger after the fact.
Right.
Before I let you go, again, I would like for you to leave something strong and hearty for the people. If you have something that is maybe tugging on your heart or in your spirit that you would like to say, I want to give you the opportunity to do that. And then I would like for you to once again let people know how they can contact you.
Okay. Well, what I would like to leave with you is don't worry about your story, who's going to not like it or who's going to judge you for your story. The people who need your story, they're going to get what they need from your story. So don't let fear, judgment, embarrassment, even pride, don't let that stop you from writing your story. You have a purpose. You didn't go through the thing just to go through it, right? You went through that thing for a reason. So write your story and share it and just trust that you're going to be so much better on the other side of writing that story. And you can find my book also on, again, on the Speak Up Sis bookshelf. You can find a Rose Wrapped in Thorns there. You can also get it on Amazon. And you can also get it on my website at harabezthoughts.com. And you can follow me on IG as harabez_thoughts. And you can find me on Facebook as Harabez Thoughts or Deborah Jefferson. I'm on TikTok as Harabez Thoughts. I'm pretty much Harabez Thoughts on YouTube and just about everywhere, even fan base. But I'm all over. So you can contact me. My email address is out there. All my information is on there.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Deborah, I want to say thank you again, sis, for being with us tonight and for being a part of the Speak Up Sis family. You absolutely are Speak Up Sis family. Your courage and your voice and your journey, just
Mm-hmm.
from doing hair events
Yes. Yes.
all the way to writing your own book, starting your own business, and
Yeah.
all the things. You did not. I'm going to give you a moment to talk to the people a little bit about Harabez Thoughts.
Okay.
If you have time, do you have a moment
Yes.
to
Yes,
share?
I
Okay,
do.
so please let everyone know about your entrepreneurial venture as well.
Okay, sure, I will. Harabed's Thoughts LLC now. Um, and it's a play on words in a sense where Harabed is Deborah spelled backwards with an S to make it plural, but Harabed's Thoughts is I share those inward thoughts, the thoughts that people are embarrassed or ashamed to talk about. That's the whole premise of it. But those thoughts need to be talked about. They need to be shared in order for you to heal and grow. So I share my stories on. I have my Hair-Based Thoughts podcast on YouTube. We have sharing your story for other authors to come on there. We have the conversation that healed. Even if you're not an author and you have a healing conversation, something that needs to be talked about, from relationship issues, marriage, divorce, abuse, different things of that nature. We get a good conversation to talk about those things so that we can bring about healing on your journey. And I have my series that I've started, Healing Through Reflection, that I do every Tuesday on, it's streamed on FB and on YouTube, Facebook and YouTube rather. And it's all about healing. So if you need some things that you need to learn and grow in areas that you're working on in your life, come see me, Heribet's Thoughts, and let's talk and let's have a conversation and let's work through our problems and things, and heal. That's what it's all about. So come see me.
Absolutely. That is what it's all about. So go and see her. Again, Deborah, I want to say thank you very much, sis, for coming to the space. I appreciate you for being such an integral part of the Speak Up Sis family, and for being a Speak Up Sis Magazine Author Showcase author for our 2025 spring edition of Speak Up Sis Magazine. So thank you so much. You're just amazing. I could talk about you all night and all of the wonderful things, but if you all have not already gotten a copy of A Rose, you have not gotten a copy of, yes, hold yours up too. Have not gotten a copy, go grab your copy of A Rose Wrapped in Thorns. I want you to make sure that you follow Deborah online. Make sure you support her. And don't forget, we want to see you Saturday night for our virtual magazine cover reveal at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on our YT platform. And don't forget, you all can also pre-order. No, you cannot pre-order your print copy anymore. If you haven't done that, then you absolutely, no. But you
Mine.
you can subscribe to Speak Up Sis Magazine for the digital or the print version of Speak Up Sis Magazine. It is an absolutely beautiful magazine. They're like the perfect coffee table magazines, right? They're
Yes.
absolutely beautiful, and y'all are going to love them. So just visit speakupsismagazine.com. If you would like to become a guest on this show, then visit speakupsismagazine.com. Deborah, again, I say thank you, and I wish you a very good night until next time.
Good night. Thank you so much for having me.
Most definitely. Most definitely. All right, everyone. I want to say thank you once again for coming into the space for the Speak Up Sis Magazine author showcase with our guest author, Deborah Jefferson, the author of A Rose Wrapped in Thorns. Get your copy today. Also, make sure that you follow Speak Up Sis Magazine on all of our social media platforms. We're on FB, we're on IG, we're on TikTok at Speak Up Sis Magazine. And you can also join our email list by visiting speakupsismagazine.com so that you can stay up to date on all things Speak Up Sis Magazine. And with that, we'll see you next time. Take care.